Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 459. Letting a Chance Slip. Although I have always had the urge to pray to the fool to get rid of the psychological cue that Father Yutravsky gave me, I also know, very clearly, that it's dangerous to recite the honorific name of an unknown being. Not all hidden existences will start with bait and slowly provide guidance. In such matters, they are often like sharks in the sea, who would go mad and lurch forward once they smell blood. But now, Lord Nibs, no, what does the ancestor want? Emlyn White said, finding it rather ridiculous. It will be very, very, very dangerous. Inside the black iron coffin, Nibs Odora replied with an aged voice. Yes, under normal circumstances. But not all hidden existences are filled with malice. Among them, they will similarly abide to rules and enjoy transactions. For example, the 7 pure lights of the spirit world. Since the ancestor has given such a revelation, it means that the danger that the fool can bring is not too serious, or even none. And during this entire process, I will always be by your side to protect you. Don't you want to get rid of the psychological cue? Have you already become a believer of Earth Mother and abandoned the moon? No, I haven't, Emlyn frantically denied. After a moment of silence, he gritted his teeth and said, I wish to have a few days to think it over. All right, no problem. I believe that you will make a choice that suits your noble identity as a member of the Sanguine. Inside the coffin, Nibs's voice turned soft as he smiled and comforted him. After sending Emlyn White back to the second floor, Cosme Odora once again returned to the dark and gloomy underground hall, and he asked with confusion and doubt, Grandfather, how could the revelation given by the ancestor involve Emlyn White? He's just a weak member of the Sanguine who only recently reached adulthood. Nibs's voice came through the thick black metal coffin lid and reverberated in the air. No, the revelation provided by the ancestor never included Emlyn White. She only showed a scene of the dawn of the apocalypse, depicting the erosion of the crimson moon, as well as mentioning the fool and the corresponding honorific name. During this process, no Sanguine appeared. The mention of the key element was just my way of convincing Emlyn White. However, being able to take risks for the future of the Sanguine can also be considered a key element. Cosme was first enlightened before he had another question. Why did you choose Emlyn White? What's so special about him? Nibs Odora suddenly laughed. Hasn't he been clamoring about praying to the fool all this time? Didn't he think that we weren't putting too much weight on his problem, that we aren't willing to antagonize Bishop Yutravsky, so he was trying to find other help? I'm just fulfilling his wish. For a long time, Cosme was speechless. Emlyn White stood at the railing of the second floor, looked down at his tireless kinsman, and nervously took a sip of his wine. Up to this day, I haven't heard of any terrible outcome for people who prayed to the fool. Perhaps it's just as Lord Nibs said, the fool is just like the 7 pure lights in the spirit world, a hidden existence that maintains order and is warm-hearted. Wait a minute, what are the 7 pure lights in the spirit world? Why haven't I ever heard of them before? They seem to be on the side of good? I wonder if this will be any help to me. In short, the fool isn't necessarily dangerous, and there is Lord Nibs protecting me. Maybe I can take advantage of this opportunity to get rid of the psychological cue. Emlyn consoled himself with fear and anticipation. Monday morning. Chowood Borough, 15 Minsk Street. Klein squatted in front of the toilet, holding a brush and carefully cleaning the dirt inside it. According to his schedule, after completing his visits on Saturday and Sunday, he decided to take a day off and wait until tomorrow to report back to Prince Edisac about the final results and hand over the assignment. But during what should have been his relaxation time, he found the house a little too messy and dirty. It was only when he saw this that he remembered that the cleaning of the house had been done twice a week through the temporary employment of the landlady's maid next door. As the Sammers had gone on holiday to Seville City in Desi Bay, one of the maids had gone along with them, while another had returned to the countryside after receiving a year-end bonus. 15 Minsk Street, where he lived, hadn't been cleaned by anyone for quite some time. Klein had planned to put up with it for 2 days since he was, leaving Backland, but in his free time, he didn't dare to take the time to head to the Quelag Club to have fun. He was afraid of infuriating Prince Edisac, so he could only stay home. Hence, seeing the things that irked him, he changed into his old clothes and began spring cleaning before the new year. He went on to scrub the toilet, wash the bathtub, wipe the windows, mop the floors, clean his equipment, and wash clothes. Klein busied himself from 8 to 11 before barely completing his desired cleanup. Of course, he only did it perfunctorily without that much attention to detail. Sometimes, renting too big a house isn't a good thing. Klein washed his hands and wiped his face with a towel. Walking out of the bathroom and looking at the clean and tidy living room and dining room, and watching the sunlight pierce through the clouds and shine through the transparent glass window, showering golden spots in his house, he had a strange sense of accomplishment. He felt a lot happier. Time to reward myself for lunch. I'll find a good restaurant. Klein returned to the second floor and changed his clothes. As he leafed through the papers, waiting for lunchtime, the doorbell rang. It's almost the new year, and there are still people coming to entrust me with missions. As he rose and walked to the door, Klein made up his mind to decline. Although he only had £34 left in cash, in order to get out of the royal strife, he had to go on vacation to the south as soon as possible. He could no longer accept assignments. To his surprise, the visitor wasn't a stranger, but the old butler of Prince Edisac. The old butler was wearing a well-cut tuxedo. He saluted without losing his dignity and said, "Detective Moriarty, His Highness, the Prince, is waiting for you in the carriage at the end of the street. He wishes to know the progress of your investigations." So impatient? All right, that saves me the trouble of going all the way to Red Rose Manor tomorrow. Klein quickly reorganized what he had thought of last night and calmly replied, "All right." He was about to remove his hat from the coat rack when he felt a sudden ache in his stomach, a pain that required him to visit the toilet. After enduring for a while, he realized that he couldn't hold it in any longer and apologetically said to the old butler, "I'm very sorry. I'll need to use the bathroom first. My stomach isn't feeling well." The old butler didn't show any abnormal expression. "That's your freedom." As he discharged one wave after another of bliss, clearing away the remnants in his stomach, Klein washed his hands and returned to the hall. At that moment, he noticed that the old butler was no longer around. The one waiting outside was the maid with curly brown hair. "His Highness requested me to apologize to you. He still has matters to attend to and cannot wait for too long. Please go to Red Rose Manor tomorrow or the afternoon of the day after tomorrow." The maid bowed meticulously. "It hasn't even been 10 minutes, and I'd already done it as fast as I could. Usually, I can continue on for quite a while if I have newspapers." Klein smiled. "No problem." After receiving a response, the maid who had completed her mission immediately felt a weight off her chest. She giggled and said, "Detective Moriarty, you missed that lady again." "Huh!" Klein was at a loss. The maid lowered her voice and said, "This time, the young lady came with His Highness. She was the one who suggested taking a detour to meet you. In the end, I miss her because of my stomachache? Something isn't right." Klein frowned slightly. In a room padded with a thick and soft carpet, a quill that was being held came to a pause and stopped writing. In the open notebook beneath it, there were lines of text and marks of scribbled-out text, scribbles. "Target attempted to escape control, but unfortunately, Detective Sherlock Moriarty leaves before she heads downstairs. The target influenced the surrounding maids, but Prince Edisac's butler, Funkel, chanced upon the problem and dealt with it." Scribbles. The target went off track once again. She participated in Talim's funeral on behalf of Prince Edisac. However, having quickly recovered to her normal state, she realized that she was unable to identify Sherlock Moriarty, and she could only let a chance slip. Sherlock Moriarty went to Red Rose Manor to investigate, but the timing wasn't right, and the target happened to be riding horses on the golf course. Scribbles. The target, once again, triumphed over the arrangement, encouraging Prince Edisac to visit Detective Sherlock Moriarty. Unfortunately, Sherlock Moriarty happened to have a stomachache, ended up staying in the bathroom for 7 minutes and 45 seconds, and the prince couldn't afford to wait. His facial features were like a sculpture, but the middle-aged man who was blinded in one eye put down his quill and looked at a woman. What exactly did you put on her body? Breaking through the restrictions time and time again will create big problems. The woman laughed in a low voice and said, "It was just an accident. Don't worry, there won't be any problems." As she spoke, she pulled back her hair, revealing her long, white neck. After that, she slowly applied various things to her face, making her look even more alluring. Seeing that she was putting on her clothes and accessories, the dark golden-haired middle-aged man frowned and asked, "Where are you going?" The woman didn't directly answer and said with a smile, "Be careful of the quill in your hand. You almost exchanged bodies with someone the last time." "You don't need to remind me," the middle-aged man with deep blue eyes to the point of being black said with a straight face. The woman tightened her belt to make herself look thinner, then she lazily stretched and yawned while covering her mouth. "I'm going to pay a visit to Mr. A of the Aurora Order. I hope he's as crazy as the rumors say." As she spoke, the expression of the blind middle-aged man suddenly sank. It was because that ordinary quill had begun to write on its own, as though an invisible hand was holding onto it.